In 1986, a lake in Cameroon caused almost 2,000 people to suffocate in their sleep. It sounds like something from horror movies, but keep watching because this horror was 100% real. Night falls on Lake Nyos with a calm so deep that even the livestock seem to hold their breath. At 8:45 in the evening, villagers finish their evening routines, unaware that beneath the still water, something is about to break loose. The air is cool, the sky clear, no wind, no storm, no hint of danger. Then, in the darkness, a silent wave of carbon dioxide begins to slide out of the lake's basin. There is no roar, no flash, not even a tremor, just a low, almost inaudible rumble as the invisible cloud pours over the rim and starts its deadly descent. By 9:02 in the evening, a faint mist creeps into Nyos village. Within 2 minutes, people and animals collapse where they stand. Eyes open, mouths frozen mid-breath. The gas moves fast, hugging the ground, rolling downhill in a cold, suffocating blanket. At 9:07, Cam is overtaken, cattle drop suddenly, and the night air grows heavy. By 9:10, Cha feels the same silent force. Those who are awake hear a faint hissing, but most never stir. The deadly front reaches Subum by 9:13. In less than 15 minutes, the valley floor is covered. Over 25 square kilometers, the only sound is the faint echo of a breeze, then nothing. No dogs barking, no birdsong, just an unnatural silence. The cloud, heavier than air, lingers close to the ground, refusing to rise or disperse. By the time the world realizes what happened, it is already too late. The lake sits undisturbed, its surface smooth, holding back the secret of what triggered the suffocating wave. Dawn brings no relief to the valleys below Lake Nyos. Red Cross teams arrive just after sunrise, stepping into a world that feels frozen in time. In Nyos, Calm, Cha, and Subum, bodies lie where they fell, men and women slumped over dinner tables, children curled in sleep, entire families as if paused mid-breath. There are no wounds, no signs of struggle. Livestock, over 3,000 cattle, goats, and sheep, dot the fields, felled mid-step, some still standing as if grazing, others collapsed in muddy tracks. Chickens hang limp from roosts, dogs and birds motionless in the morning stillness. The air is thick, oddly metallic, and the silence is absolute. Rescue workers search for survivors, but the villages are eerily quiet. In Nyos alone, more than 1,000 are dead. Calm, Cha, and Subum are no different. Houses filled with lifeless bodies, eyes open, faces untouched by violence. The official count will settle at 1,746 people lost, but the first hours bring only confusion and horror. The animals, too, are everywhere. Cattle sprawled across roads, goats collapsed beside their owners, even insects lying dead on window ledges. Nothing explains the devastation. There is no fire, no flood, no visible mark of disaster. The lake itself sits calm, its surface smooth and undisturbed. For those who witness the aftermath, the question is immediate and inescapable. How could so many die so quickly, with no warning and no trace of what killed them? The mystery deepens with every silent street and every untouched meal left on the table. Lake Nyos hides its silent danger beneath a surface so calm it could be mistaken for any remote crater lake. What no one saw was a slow, relentless process unfolding in the depths. For decades, volcanic gas seeped up from cracks in the earth, dissolving into the cold lower layers of water. The lake never mixed from top to bottom. Scientists call this meromixis, a permanent separation like oil floating on water. The deep water grew heavy with carbon dioxide, trapped by the weight of the lake above, held in place by pressure just as gas is sealed inside a bottle of soda. Year after year, the invisible reservoir grew. The bottom waters reached near saturation, holding carbon dioxide at concentrations close to 10 moles per kilogram, almost the maximum possible for the temperature and pressure. No storms, no seasonal winds ever stirred the layers enough to let the gas escape. Above, villagers fished and drew water, unaware that every day the lake was storing more of this silent threat. Geochemists who later sampled the water found a sharp boundary. Above, oxygen and life. Below, an abyss loaded with enough gas to suffocate thousands. The surface gave no hint of the pressure building below. All it needed was the smallest disturbance to break the seal. Scientists would later give a name to what happened at Lake Nyos, a limnic eruption. The term barely captures the violence of the process. Deep beneath the surface, the lake had become a vast reservoir holding about 300 million cubic meters of dissolved carbon dioxide, kept in check by nothing more than pressure and a delicate balance of temperature. But on that night, something tipped the scales. A minor landslide, a cool wind, maybe just a splash. No one can say for certain. What is known is that once the seal broke, the reaction was unstoppable. When pressure drops even slightly in a supersaturated lake, gas begins to bubble out, just as it does when a soda bottle is opened. But in Nyos, this was on a scale no one had imagined. Bubbles formed deep in the water, rising and expanding, dragging more gas-laden water up with them. The process fed itself, a runaway cascade. Within minutes, a column of water and gas shot upward, releasing the entire deep reservoir in a single catastrophic plume. The carbon dioxide burst from the lake's surface and spilled over the rim, heavy and invisible, rolling down the valleys below. This was not steam, not fire, not the kind of eruption anyone expected. There was no warning, no visible sign, only the physics of pressure and density, and the silent chemistry that turned a peaceful lake into a lethal force. The mechanism was so unfamiliar that it took months for scientists to agree on what had happened. But the numbers tell the story. Hundreds of millions of cubic meters of gas released in a matter of minutes, enough to suffocate everything in its path. And the lake, after the eruption, looked unchanged, its surface smooth, its secrets spent, at least for now. Engineers arrived at Lake Nyos in 2001 with a plan that looked deceptively simple. Install a vertical pipe deep into the lake, then let physics do the rest. The system relied on a self-siphoning principle. Once primed, carbon dioxide-rich water from the bottom would shoot up the pipe, depressurize, and vent gas harmlessly into the air. No external power was needed. The bubbles themselves kept the flow going like a natural pump driven by the lake's own pressure. For the first time since the disaster, there was a way to bleed off the silent threat trapped below. But the promise of safety came with limits. The pipe, a 102mm stainless steel column, faced constant attack from the very gas it was meant to release. Corrosion chewed at the interior walls, and over time, mineral scale narrowed the passage, slowing the flow. Field engineers recorded a steady drop in efficiency, and by 2024, the original pipe was moving less than a third of its initial volume. Maintenance teams struggled to keep up, often hampered by funding gaps and the remote, unforgiving terrain. International donors pledged millions, but repairs lagged behind the lake's relentless recharge. Even as a second pipe was added in 2006, sediment and scaling forced repeated shutdowns. The degassing system has bought time, but not certainty. Every inspection uncovers new leaks, new patches of rust, new questions about how long the safety valve will hold. The threat beneath Lake Nyos is quieter now, but it is not gone. Lake Kivu sits on the border of Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo, holding a secret that dwarfs even the horror of Nyos. Beneath its calm surface lies a gas reservoir 300 times greater than that of Lake Nyos, an estimated 65 cubic kilometers of carbon dioxide, plus vast stores of methane. Nearly 2 million people live along its shores in cities like Goma and Bukavu, with no formal evacuation plan and nowhere to run if the lake ever turns deadly. The numbers are staggering. A single overturn at Kivu could unleash a gas cloud on a scale the world has never seen. The Lake Kivu monitoring program tracks gas saturation and pressure, but mitigation lags far behind the threat. Methane extraction for power has begun, but it only scratches the surface. The bulk of the carbon dioxide remains locked in the depths, waiting for a trigger, a landslide, a tremor, even a heavy rain. International agencies urge the expansion of degassing infrastructure, reinforcement of the natural dam, and the immediate drafting of evacuation strategies. For now, the communities around Kivu live with a silent risk, their fate tied to a body of water that could suffocate entire cities in minutes. The lesson from Nyos is clear. Waiting is not an option, and the next disaster could be unimaginably worse. Lake Nyos still holds enough carbon dioxide to kill again. As climate shifts and infrastructure ages, silent threats like this do not vanish. They wait. The next disaster could unfold just as quietly, anywhere a lake conceals invisible pressure. Some dangers do not roar, they whisper, and the world rarely listens.